Welcome to The Wind Down, an afternoon podcast where two techie blokes sit down over a bowl of wine and chat about what's happening in the world of tech. Enjoy while Scott and Nick open up about their week in technology.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Wind Down. Really special Wind Down. We have a special guest. I'll introduce him in a second. I'm here with
Scott.
Hello, Scott. How are you?
Good. And
you're there
James.
with? Hello, James. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing very well.
Now, the most important question of the Wind Down: where are we? What are we drinking?
So we are remote from you this week, Nick, because we're actually at an IT conference in the Sunshine Coast, Maroochydore. We're at the Novotel Twin Pines, Twin Peaks, Twin Towers. No, that's not right. Anyway, it's the Novotel Resort on the Sunshine Coast. It's a nice place over, and I tell you what, it is very warm here today and humid.
Oh, very nice. So,
however,
gentlemen, what are you drinking? Looks like it's the wrong colour because mine's this colour.
That's right. Well, this is actually a Jim Barry Riesling, something cold, just because it is quite warm here. And they took out the 2020 Holiday Wine of the Year, so I thought, let's try this out. So this is the Watervale Riesling. It's the 2021 release. It's actually quite a nice drop. And yeah, normally you sort of think, oh, it's a hotel wine, it's going to be very average, and you know what, this is actually pretty good.
Well, you have treated me to some horrible pub wines in the course of 60 of these wine downs. I'm back on the, if you can get a view of that, the Curanara, the Riddick again. I've got my little bottles of that, which is absolutely lovely. But today is the great backup debate. So I'm not going to spend some time talking. I'm going to let you guys talk. So Scott, I'll let you introduce James, or James can introduce himself. And then we'll dive into the topics today, and then I'll dive in and heckle if you need me to.
I'm sure you'll heckle anyway. That's excellent. So look, yes, this is the we thought we'd talk about the great backup debate, just being that the 31st of March is World Backup Day. And strangely enough, because we actually we happen to have a lot of people from the IT industry here at ARN Edge, which is like an industry event where we all get updates on technology and what's happening and new things in the industry and that. And we ran into James. And look, James, we can sort of tell you a story, but James used to actually work for a backup provider. And we thought this would be interesting. Let's get him on and we can talk about a few experiences. So you want to say hello about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Scott and Nick. Great to see you again. So yeah, quick introduction. James Bergl, and I had the opportunity to work for a backup and disaster recovery company called Datto, and I launched their business here in Australia about 6 or 7 years ago now. And very much the theme of that solution was it's business continuity versus backup. Which really just talks to the time it takes to get your business data running again in the event of some sort of disaster. So I had a great time with Datto for a number of years, and my wife had our first little baby girl, and I thought, you know what, the business is in a great spot. I'm going to take some time off. So I'm officially on daddy daycare duty and having a very, very good time with the little one, and also privileged to be next to the pool with Scott right here.
That's great. There you go.
Awesome. I don't think we've had a chance to say congratulations. So congratulations, James. I don't think I've said that yet.
Thank you.
Cool. So look, as I said, I'm gonna try and not interject, and here I am interjecting. But why are we doing a backup debate, Scott?
Well, look, so World Backup Day is here, and I know we've had all these things. Like in the past, everyone used to back up. You know, you'd right from the old days of, look, I'm going to stick a little floppy diskette in the drive. So I'm going to use a tape. I'm going to back up to an external hard drive. But I noticed that in these days, people have got a lot less concern sometimes about backups, because they sort of, it's in the cloud and it's all taken care of for me, and I don't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore. And it's sort of become a secondary issue, and I'm not really sure that's the right way to think about it. So we thought we'd just cover it, given that it is Global Backup Day in a few days. So look, why do we need to back up today? Why is this important? Why are people still doing this? What's really driving it?
I think you're right. There's been a thought, particularly as clients have moved all of their data to the cloud. Well, it's in the cloud, it's in Microsoft, it's in Google, it's all backed up, and I don't have to worry. And perhaps I can get rid of that requirement to put a backup tape in there or back it up to the cloud. The reality is that a lot of these companies that have put their data into the cloud, or a lot of the companies that are hosting that data, they provide a level of protection. But what they typically talk about is, I'm protecting the cloud, the infrastructure, the physical hardware, access to that particular data center, but they're not necessarily protecting what is inside the cloud itself. And the reality is, it's unlikely that a data center is going to get blown up. But what is likely is that one of your staff members is going to come in and either deliberately or accidentally click on something and press delete or Control-Alt-Delete. And then all of a sudden you go in the next morning and you go into your OneDrive account or your Google Drive and you see all of my files are gone. And that is what we certainly in the latter days saw as one of the main challenges. Is it's not that the data's not secure from a physical stance if it's in Microsoft's cloud, but you're not going to get on the phone to Microsoft and say, can you restore this particular piece of data? Like, it's not going to happen. So I think there's a little bit of education that's being done at the moment, and companies like Scott and Nick are telling that story and helping people to understand what the challenges are. But it is a multifaceted approach. Protect the outside. You put the security cameras and the locks on the doors so that people maybe can't get in. But if they do get in there, what are you going to do if they do take something? So it's an extra level of redundancy, security, etc.
I guess there's a key point in there that although Microsoft makes your data resilient in Office 365 or Microsoft 365, and Google does the same thing, they don't guarantee anything around around your data being backed up. In fact, they don't back it up. Now, yes, we know about versions of data, but the reality is, if you delete some of your data, they will quite accurately represent that deletion in the cloud. They will make sure that data is deleted in the cloud as well. And look, when we're talking about, sorry, go on, Nick.
Sorry, I was going to say, so I read the terms of service this morning. As you do,
just when you're sitting around.
And one of the things I read is they deliberately exclude your data from something they'll recompense you for if something goes wrong. So you're still responsible for your data.
Yeah, you must be responsible for your own data. Yeah, just as it is your data, it's not their data. They don't have to protect it. They're under no regulatory control for their business to protect the data. It's actually your data to protect. And I guess we've sort of seen that a bit, where people get a bit confused about, it's with Microsoft, it's all good, they sort it out. We said, well, no, they don't. And this is where the issue becomes a bit blurry, especially if we're talking about something like databases, where I deleted 4 records. Okay, well, in the cloud, those 4 records are now gone. Can I restore that? I don't know. Does your database allow you to restore previous versions of records? Probably not. Maybe not. But whatever is in the cloud is an accurate representation of the current state of the information that you have put there and or modified. So that in itself is quite interesting. But I guess today, we know that in the past, data used to be just locally at a business. But where do we find data today in a business?
Well, data can lie in a number of different locations. It can remain on your laptop, even if you're using cloud applications. And Microsoft 365, as an example, you're most likely going to be saving documents on your personal laptop or personal workstation. You're going to have data that's on local servers that maybe can't quite go to the cloud, and then you're going to have data that's in a server that is hosted in the cloud as well. So that's another option. You may be able to migrate and go into something like Azure, so Microsoft's infrastructure solution for businesses. And then I guess the final one would be what we would describe as SaaS applications. So the sort of solutions like Microsoft 365 or your Gmail or your Hotmail or your Xero accounts or your Salesforce.com, all of those solutions are your data, your personal data is hosted with that particular vendor in their data center. So the cloud is effectively someone else's computer in a big secure room somewhere. We don't necessarily know where it is. So they do that from a security perspective. We know where some of it is, but it could be in a variety of different areas.
And I guess one of the things is we know from the Essential 8 from a security point of view, and we've spoken about the Essential 8 previously, that backing up of data, in particular being able to restore data, is one of the 8 key elements of the fundamentals of security. generally that if you do get a ransomware attack or your data does get corrupted or something like that, or someone steals it, at least you've still got that data there for the business. So look, OneDrive has the ability to do like restore previous versions. Well, that sounds like it's got all my backups for me, but that's not really the case, is it?
No, it's not. It's not the case. It's particular versions. So there's a level of version control, but it's not a solution that is designed for you to understand at what point in time a particular file has been deleted and to be able to go into that particular version, if it calls it that, and restore that particular file that you may have lost. And a lot of the times, sometimes we know that it's been deleted straight away. Sometimes we don't know that it's been deleted straight away. It's only when we're doing some sort of audit and there's some compliance within the business and you're looking to pull out some email records from an employee that's maybe left your business about whether he shared company IP or secrets. And if that data isn't available, then it's very, very difficult to go back and extract that from a versioning perspective, because again, it's another version of a photograph of your data that doesn't actually exist there. So
more like an audit or an archive sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let's say my business is using some SaaS applications outside of Office 365 or outside of Google, like I'm using Salesforce or I'm using NetSuite or some other applications there. What do I do with that? Because I've got no control over where that data exists or what's done with it. What do I do there?
The best, I guess the first point of call is to understand what is the strategy to have some sort of backup or some sort of cyber resilience strategy for that particular vendor, and understand what are their terms and conditions state. So if they do state that we're not responsible for the cloud, then speak to Scott and Nick and understand what are the layers that we can provide over and above to provide that extra level of redundancy. There's a number of solutions that are designed specifically to protect the data in those applications, and see this as another layer of protection for your business, for your home. The way I look at it is you've got your front door lock on, you've got your window locks, you've got your security camera. What's another layer of protection that you can put in place just to ensure that should there be some sort of disaster or someone breaks in and steals the keys, that they're not going to be able to get very far, and if they do, you're able to get your business operational in a short period of time.
And that's great. Makes a lot of sense. And I guess the other thing is when you're keeping copies of your backup data, let's make sure we've got copies in different places. It's all very well saying I've got a backup in the cloud or my data's in a data center somewhere, but we know we've seen recently there was a fire in one of the French data centers. Something went boom, whatever it was, and it burned down, and whatever was in there was lost. And you can sort of complain as much as you like, saying, well, hang on, you're in a data center that's supposed to be secure. This is not supposed to happen, but I get it, but it did. Yeah. Make sure you've got a second copy or an offsite copy of all of your data, and make sure you can also do something with it. Because if it's in a different format and you can't easily do something with it, then it may take you quite a while to get that back. I guess one other thing, cloud backup is a common thing these days, using a cloud backup provider. But I think we noticed an issue recently with one of the providers, and this is you may want to just let people know about that. Not so much who the provider is or anything, but just the concept of, hey, look, here's something else that happened that you just wouldn't think actually did happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the recent example is that an organization had a lot of their clients' data in their secure data center, and something happened, and that something resulted in all of their data being inaccessible. So all of those clients no longer have access to that stored data, which is major. There's any sort of audit or any sort of lost data or any sort of natural disaster locally, then that business isn't going to be able to restore. So on your previous point, absolutely. And I think it's good to have 3 copies of your data as a minimum. You've got your core data on your primary machine. You probably want to have a local copy of that as well, so that you can quickly access that data if your primary machine goes down. And then you want to have that just in case the building burns down, there's flooding, which we've all seen recently in Australia. You're able to get that data operational in a cloud of the backup provider as well.
So there's the trick. So we need to be able to restore the data as well.
Absolutely. Restore. And this is something that I learned, a number of years ago. I thought that backup was backup, and backup is one side of the story. And an analogy that I used in the early days, when I was just trying to comprehend and understand how backup and DR works, is I would say, think of it a little bit like I like my car analogies. So you've got your car. Let's say that you get a flat tire. Some of the older cars, you have to go into the boot, you have to get your spare tire out, and you have to get your hands dirty. You have to hike the car up and replace the tire. And then you've got the you've got the call out services that you can get. So if you can actually phone someone else and they come and do that for you, and see that as they're getting you out of a disaster. That's a disaster recovery. And then the next one, which you see in some of the German vehicles, is run flat tires. So that ability, when you get a flat tire, maybe you have to slow down a little bit, but you can still continue on with your business and continue to getting to your destination, perhaps at 80 kilometers per hour as opposed to 110 on the motorway, but you can continue. And I think that we need to think about backup and disaster recovery and business continuity a little bit like that. If your business is a car and you have some sort of disaster, do you want to be standing on the side of the road fixing it yourself? And that's going to take some time, and you need some experience. And who knows if the spare tire is even checked? Or would you rather have the ability to go, okay, I'll reduce my speed, but I'll go and get this change at my convenience? And that's the restore piece. So for your business, think about it as in, I've lost my data, my server's crashed, it's died, I've lost some critical data. How quickly can I continue my business? And that's the difference of what restore means to you. So how quickly do I want to be up and running again? And we would call that your recovery time objective. So how long are you prepared to wait?
It does remind me of a client that we took on a little while ago now, but the issue for them was that they had a critical event on a server in their location, and they started to recover data, and they couldn't recover. And the way it had actually been set up is they'd put all their primary data on this server, and they'd found an overseas backup to the cloud operator, $5 a month, or you can back up, doesn't matter. And they go, oh, this is great, $5. Okay, this is okay. The issue was, yes, it did actually back up. Unfortunately, when it came to restore, it was extremely slow. And I can actually tell you it's just taken us over a year to get all of that data back. We managed to get some critical stuff back sort of fairly quickly, which was good. But when you get down to all the old bits, which that provider had clearly archived out somewhere, it's now been a year and another 3 months, give or take, to get a full set of that client's data. So if you think about it, that's not really a valid restore time frame for your business. Oh dear, I've just had an issue, I've got to restore my backups, I'll come back in a year and 3 months. That's not viable. You may as well not have backups. So part of this is, of course, make sure you test your restores, and you can actually verify that I guess they are working within a valid amount of time for the business.
Absolutely. And just to play on my little analogies again, the way I think about it is a little bit like insurance in a way. So you've got a cheaper insurance, but that's most likely going to give you a higher excess. So as and when you do have a fire or a flood and you realize that your excess is $25,000 before you can claim, that's an expensive cost of disaster. Whereby if you pay a slight premium up front, so on an ongoing basis, you're paying a small fraction more, then as and when you do need a disaster, your excess is $500 as opposed to $25,000. So, and it's important to think like that. Just because you've got a backup, it doesn't mean that you are able to run that. Just because you've got a file, if you don't have that Microsoft application to open it, if you don't have the computer to turn it on, then you've got a file on a floppy disk which is just a paperweight, really. So it's understanding what needs to be and what are the layers of technology that need to be in place in order for you to get operational again quickly.
Right. And I guess that's the key thing. Work with your IT provider to make sure that you've got a solid way of backing up your data. You know that it's in multiple places if there is an issue. And if there's a problem, you can restore it quickly, but also you've tested that restore function, you know it's going to work.
Absolutely. You nailed it, Scott. Well done.
Okay, any final thoughts?
Look, I think that what we've touched on is, and I've mentioned myself here, is natural disasters, fires, floods. The reality is if you're going to need to use a disaster recovery solution in today's world, it is most likely going to be, there's a bigger probability it's from a person, and a person has done something, and that's either accidentally or what we're seeing, and we're seeing it mainstream at the moment. I'm hearing it on the radio is cybercrime, it's ransomware, it's criminals that are hacking into your system and putting a ransom on your data, saying we're not going to give you your data back until you pay us a fee, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars at a time. So that is the big piece that we're all battling, is how do we protect ourselves from downtime, which can come in today's world. Again, we just need to see what's going on in the world and the talk of cybercrime as quickly as possible. So don't think that if you're living in the highlands away from any rivers or trees that you're safe. Again, these cyber criminals that live remotely in all parts of the world, doesn't matter where you live, they can attack your data, and that would be one thing I would think about. The other thing is, don't think like I did when I came on board. Backup is there's good, better, best in terms of the spectrum. You do get a little bit about, you get what you pay for, and think about, if you do need to restore, what is that process, and what is it going to cost you to be unoperational for a period of time. And then just finally, there's loads of vendors, there's loads of backup vendors out there. Some are good, some are new, some are maybe not as good as others. Understand what their approach and their internal strategy is for cyber resilience. So they may be selling a security product, but what is their process for protecting the compliance around their own data? So this organization that we've seen, it could have been a person that accidentally did something, but they should have steps in place that prevent that from even happening in the first place. So it very much is the vendor, the company that you're partnering with, is make sure that there's references, make sure that that it's a tried and tested and proven solution and organization, and you're going to be in a much better spot, and just don't cheap out on the things that really matter.
That's great. Thank you, James. Nick?
Well, thanks, James. Thanks for coming along and joining Scott and imbibing of the wine. I hope Scott bought the bottle of wine.
He did. And it's a lovely one as well. It's a lovely
excellent.
Yes,
excellent.
have to test it a bit further.
Well, that was the great backup debate. Scott and James, thank you so much for interjecting. Look, if you do like what you see, please give us a like, please subscribe, and leave us a message if you want us to discuss something. We're on, we're everywhere. We're on Amazon, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. So do tune in, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed it. All that's left to say is, Scott and James, thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nick, and appreciate it, Scott. Look forward to finishing the bottle of wine with you.
Thanks, James. Wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.